I am Ken Canion, the host of Love, Lust, and Lies, and on this show, I help women navigate the complexities of modern day relationships. But today, this show is about men, women, it doesn't matter. It's just about you have a relationship. I don't care if you're a man that loves a woman that loves a woman, man that loves a man. I don't care what it is. We're talking about relationships, long distance, and how to make them work. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Here we go. So let me tell you what happened. So one of my clients is in a long distance relationship. And you know, with online dating now, just the reality of what we are, the reality of what's going on, some of the people that you may meet may be in long distance. They may not be around here. They may not be near you proximity-wise. And we have to understand how to navigate long distance relationships, because there's a way to navigate them to see if they're going to work. Now, the truth of the matter is, y'all, we get so enamored many times on the way a person makes us feel, and we negate the other things that go along with cultivating a great relationship, be it in person or be it long distance. So I told her, I said, okay, so I'm going to do a whole live. I'm going to do a whole session on making long distance relationships work. And y'all, don't be against the long distance relationship, because a lot of people have said to me, I don't like online dating. I don't want online dating. And I asked them, well, why don't you? And I'm not advocating one way or the other for it, but I said, why don't you like it? She said, because my experiences have been bad. People out here playing these games. I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, have you had some in-person relationships where people are playing games and they out here? She said, yes. I said, so are you through with those relationships too? She said, no, but I said, so what's the difference? The difference is that you feel like you don't have control in long distance relationships. And what it boiled down to is, and I told her this, I said, the reality is you think that proximity wise, if you are close to a person, you can control the relationships. She was like, well, at least I know what they're doing. I said, no, you don't. You still don't know what they're doing just because proximity wise, you're close to them. And so what you got to get to the point in where you trust the person, whether they're away or whether they're here. If you don't trust them away, you ain't going to trust them here. So what you got to do is heal what's going on with you. And I'm going to show you the stuff. But she was like, wow, I knew you were going to give me some kind of speech or lecture. I said, no, I'm telling you the truth, and it resonates with your spirit. She was like, well, yeah, you're right. So I said, today I am going to do a session on how to make relationships, long distance relationships work. So the first thing you got to understand is long distance, be it long distance, be it close proximity. Relationships take work. You cannot avoid the work that is associated with the relationship. Okay? There are different kinds of work, but nonetheless, there is work involved. There's work involved if the person that you love lives right next to you, sleeping right next to you at night. Okay? Or the person that you love could be 3,000 miles away. It doesn't matter. It is still going to require work. So today I want you to understand what kind of work it's going to require for you to make a long distance relationship work. So here we go. First off, you got to understand there are two types of long distance relationships. The first type of long distance relationship is the person that you've been together, and all of a sudden that person has a job or got a job or military, and they got to leave for some finite amount of time. Okay, and then now you got to navigate. We've been together and we've been spending time together. We've been sleeping together. We've been in the same proximity, same city, not too far. I can get to you in 15, 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever. But now I can't see you every day. I can't just up and say I'm coming over. So you leave. That's the first type of long distance relationship. The second type of long distance relationship is a relationship where you meet the person and that person is away from you. They're away from you and you have to navigate it. So you start the relationship where they're away. Okay? Now, I am not advocating one way or the other. I am simply saying, I used to be against long distance relationships, but I realized something. I realized you can make long distance relationships work too. And when I began studying about long distance relationships, there was a Cornell university study that came out in 2013. And the study simply said that couples who were in a long distance relationship said that they felt more intimate and a more intimate connection with their partner than ones who were right there. And what they cited was, they cited that a long distance relationship makes us focus on things that really matter, makes us focus on real conversations, makes us talk about real things that matter to both of us. And I was like, wow, that kind of makes sense to me. So I said, okay, that being the case, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you decide to do the work. So let's talk about what that work is. The first thing, if you're going to be in a long distance relationship, is this. And this is the part that, I did a live a few weeks ago talking about knowing the person. See, the first thing is, if you're going to be in a relationship, you have to go into the relationship with your eyes wide open. And what I mean by that is, there are a lot of scammers out there, y'all. There are a lot. I was watching 90 Days, 90 Days Before the 90 Days, that reality show where you meet 90 days and you get married and all of that. Now they got After the 90 Days, Before the 90 Days. I think this show is quite hilarious. All right. And one of the things I heard the other day was this lady on there who's dating this guy. She said try to scam her all the time, and they call themselves G-men. G-men are the ones that try to scam women, and it could be women of means, women who have been out of the dating game, and they got this thing they do. And I was like, wow. And I said this, when you're in a relationship, number one, here's the things you have to be cognizant about. You have to be willing to do your research. Remember this, emotions don't have a great track record in relationships. Emotions don't have a great track record in relationships. First thing I tell people, like I tell people when you're local, when you're within this, do your research. Find out who this person is. You don't need to commit your heart until you commit to research. Commit to finding out, is this person who they say they are? Research their friends, research their address, research, and look, when you go visit them, or if they come visit, if they only want to come visit you, that's a red flag. If they only want to talk to you at a certain time, that's a red flag. Stop looking past the red flags. Your number one priority is to protect yourself first. You got to make sure before you get in any relationship is the person is who they say they are. Because anybody can hide behind a computer. Y'all, I watched this show on ID channel called Web of Lies. And that show is scary as hell, because you got so many people that are scamming people that know how to use this computer and use it for bad. So what you want to do is you want to find out, spend any money you spend on a relationship needs to be spent on finding out if this person is who they say they are. Period. Because that's number one. You need to meet the people that they know. If you're in a relationship with a person, you've been talking back and forth, you've been building a relationship, you've been building a connection, and you have never gone to see this person's family, this person's friends, interacting with them, and they don't want you to meet them, be careful. Be cautious. Listen, do not get in a relationship where the only time the person wants to only come visit you. Just keep it real. All right, now let's jump into the other things. The reason why I had to spend time on that is because what most people do is get caught up in their emotions, how I feel. Oh, he makes me feel so good. He's texting me every morning and say, hey, beautiful, how are you? Oh, beautiful, I hope you have a great day, and this and that and this and that. And then all of a sudden, he sends you a little something. Be wary of this. When a man sends you a small gift, and then he turns around not too far after to ask you for a bigger gift. Okay? This is called seed planting. And what that do is they'll do it in pyramid schemes. What they'll do is they'll give you back a little bit of your money. So now they're proving to you that they're good. And then they're going to ask you for a big sum of money that you're not going to get back. So be careful if they send you a gift give you a small gift, and then later on they say, hey, I ran into some problems. I'm gonna be at the U.S. Embassy. I'm stuck over here in Turkey. I need you to send me $1,500. Hell no. Get out on your own. You got in on your own. Get out on your own. I've got to know that he is who he says he is. All right, let's get into ways to make a relationship work. Number one, and I wrote this down because I want to make sure I got it right when I was typing it up. All right, number one, you have to have some type of plan on how you will be living with each other or close to each other. So, and this is what I meant. This is what I mean by that. You always have to be clear about an outcome. I'm not saying initially in the relationship, but what happens is this, okay, I'm in the military and I'm gonna be gone for the next 10 years or the next 20 years, and you won't retire for the next 10 years. What you're doing is you're setting yourself up for heartbreak. That relationship is not going to work. Now, you could say, okay, we'll have a long distance relationship for the next 20 years, but that's not realistic. Most of us ain't gonna do that. You know that. So you have to be clear about a specific outcome. It may be 6 months into it, it may be a year into it, but you have to address a specific outcome. How are we going to be living together? At some point, are we going to move? Let's have the conversation. If the person that you're dealing with is unwilling to have that conversation a year into your relationship, then he or she is not really into you. They're just not really that into you. I'm being honest, y'all, because that is a conversation you need to have because, and we'll get into the next one, why that conversation is important is because people get into when their expectations don't meet their outcome, they get heartbroken. But what happens is if there's no specific outcome or no specific language or conversation about an intended outcome, then what people do is they put their heart into it. And when you put your heart into it, when you open up your heart to somebody and you have no way of getting together, there are a whole bunch of other things that are going to come into play. And it's not going to work. So you got to be willing to discuss that. Number two, to make a long distance relationship work, focus on quality time, not quantity time. And this is important because in that Cornell study, said that the reason why people were happy, why relationships were long distance were happy is because what they did was the time that they spent together, it was quality time. So here's why that works. Is because if we know that every night before I go to bed, we're going to talk, that's going to be our quality time. It's going to be 15, 20, 30 minutes before I go to bed. I'm going to fall off asleep. That's going to be our time together. We're strategic in our communication. You have to be strategic in your communication because when you're sending random texts, you cannot talk to them all day, every day. The truth is, my wife and I get on a conversation. We'll get on the phone. We don't talk about nothing. We just talk about what you doing. What you doing? And in that conversation, we're just talking. But the conversation has no substance, but we do love each other. But when you're long distance, you are not afforded that. Sometimes you're not afforded that. You can't do that. And you have a life outside of that. So what you have to do is be strategic about your communication. And let me show you what else that you need to do. You need to mimic, watch this. You need to mimic actual in-person relationships. This is what helps couples work. Here's what I mimic them. And what I'm saying is, if there's a night that you have date night, that date night might be, okay, we're going to Zoom each other. We're going to cook what you cooking tonight. We're going to mimic an in-person relationship. And the reason why that is important, and during that time, we're going to talk about things of importance, things that help us connect, things that make us become intimate with each other. The reason why quality time is important versus quantity time is because you know that you have a finite amount of time. You know that I'm going to talk to you for a few times tonight. I'm going to talk to you before I go to bed. So you save those conversations that really mean something. Hey, I'm about to get this promotion on my job. What should I do? Hey, let's talk about this. And what that does, that leads to more intimacy. Intimacy leads to more connection, y'all. And any relationship that was long distance that worked, it's because they had more intimacy. And what led to intimacy is the quality time, not the quantity time. We get so caught up a lot of times is, just because I can't talk to you every minute of the day. And the truth is, y'all, we don't talk about much when we're talking throughout the day. I get it. You have access to them. But the truth is, quality matters. Number 3, in long distance relationships, just like in personal relationships, you have to set clear expectations. Set clear expectations. So, with my wife and I, we have expectations of each other. There's certain things she expects. I'm not coming in at 1 o'clock in the morning, just coming in because I've been hanging out. Oh, that ain't gonna work. That's not gonna work. So we have an expectation that we communicate with each other. We're gonna be out late and past a certain amount of time. That's an expectation. And what happens is when you're in a long distance relationship, you have to still set expectations. Here's why that works. Here's why it works. Because people fail. Relationships fail when the expectation doesn't line up with the results. Now, the expectation doesn't line up with the results. And a lot of times the expectation doesn't line up with the results is because you haven't told the person your expectations. How can a person expect to read your mind? How can you expect to read a person's mind if you have not set their expectations? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So you have to be clear. And so that conversation about setting expectations, that's one that you must be willing to have. You must be willing to have. And so I was thinking about this one time. Why is it that people don't tell a person their expectations? Why? Because they're afraid of losing them. They're afraid of losing them. And so that's the part I want you to understand. If you're not willing to set your expectations, at the end of the day, the person is never going to be able to live up to them. They're not. Hey, I'm going to call you. We're going to call you. Net's not here right now, okay? I'll call you. Hey, y'all, that's my vegetable man. That's funny. Stuff that happens on live TV. All right, he drove up and I'm like, oh, snap. I'm glad this wasn't an interview for a reality show. But anyway, you got to be willing to set your expectations. So here's the thing. If you are unwilling to set your expectations, I just want you to understand that the person is not going to live up to your expectations. If you're unwilling to set them, the person almost always will not live up to your expectations because they don't know what they are. A lot of times I coach a lot of people and I'm like, did you tell them? Did you tell them what you expected? And they say, no, they ought to know. They ought to know what my expectations are. He knows that I don't think like that. I don't want to do that. I wouldn't do it to him. And I'm like, if you've never told the person and you expect them to know, so essentially what you want them to be is a mind reader, right? And the person looks at me like, no, they should just know. That doesn't make any sense. What you're saying is you want the person to read your mind, but you haven't given them any. Number one, we're not mind readers. Number two, if you haven't given them any input, then they can't put out any output. So be willing, y'all, to set your expectations. Actually, I'm telling you. Number 4, this is powerful right here. Number 4, when you do get together, when you meet the person, you long distance, you get together, y'all kicking it, do not pack your days full of activities. And you're like, what? You know how you like, we're going to go to Carowinds, we're going to do a picnic, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. One of those days, or more than one of those days, I don't want you to do anything but just be. I want you just to experience the person. If that means y'all doing nothing, just laying around, looking at the computer, you go eat, y'all do it. Then after that, y'all lay around, take a nap. And the reason why is because real life is not always electrifying, doing activities, doing this, we're running here and there. They've got to see what life is like, just existing, just being with you, just being around you, just being around you when you pooting and when you burping, when you doing everything else. So when you're seeing the person, sure, there are times when you're going to go out, you're going to have fun, you're going to hang out. I get that. But that's not what real life is all about. They need to see you in real life. They need to see you in your real environment. You're right. I want to go to Carowinds, but really I want you to just see me when I'm just me. I'm just being. I'm just being a human being, and I need you to experience that. They need to experience you, and you need to experience them. Because if you're not able to experience a person just being, then when that person shows up in real life, when you're not, when the pandemic hits, when y'all quarantine together and you've never done that with them, now you're looking at, you're like, who is that? Who is that person? I don't know who that is. I don't want to be with them. And so what I'm saying is, you gotta willing to not pack days full of stuff to do. I want you to just be. All right? Just be. Now the person gets to connect with just you. All right? Number five, and I'm almost done, y'all. But number 5, and this is critical too. You have to, if you're in a long distance relationship, you have to be willing to embrace patience. You have to be willing to embrace patience because you have many factors going against you. Number 1, you got the factors of everybody's busy. Everybody's busy, everybody's doing stuff, everybody is inundated with all types of distractions. The truth is, COVID let us know, y'all, that our life is full of distractions. I told my wife the other day, I said, my life is so simple now. It is so simple. I cut out a lot of my life. Now, a lot of stuff that I like to do, my wife and I, we put on events, Grand Canyons. But the truth is, we can't do them now. But when I want to be able to go somewhere, I'm not able to go somewhere. But the truth is, y'all, is that what COVID has caused me to do is to embrace patience. Embrace patience in me, embrace patience in my wife, embrace patience in my kids, my grandkids, and my life slowed down. And if you want to get in a long-term relationship with somebody, you have to be willing to embrace patience. You have to be willing to be patient with the person. Because, y'all, people, think about it. You're bringing 2 different people together, and the 2 different people together, right? And you're trying to merge them together, but the reality is both of you come from different backgrounds, both of you have different perceptions, both of you have different expectations, and the worst part of it is now you have distance between you. So we have to be willing to be patient. You have to ask yourself, is the person that I am dating, is this person worth me being patient for? Are they worth it? And I'll say, if they're not worth it, then move on. Y'all move on. Don't be afraid to be alone. Don't be afraid. And so that's my take on that. And the last thing is this right here. This is the very last thing, and I want you to understand this. All right? If you are not healed from your last relationship or past relationships, if there are things in your life, that baggage you carry that is preventing you from having a fulfilled relationship, you need to get healed first. You need to get healed first. My business partner, Milani Shani, and we did the 5-day intensive, and I'm learning too, y'all. I'm learning too as we're going through. She said something so powerful. She said the other day, she said, when there is trauma in your life, she says, at the moment of the trauma, you stop growing emotionally. Now think about this. She says you may grow age-wise chronologically, but you stop growing emotionally. Your growth is stunted because you just dealt with trauma. Now, how many people have dealt with trauma when you were 12 and 13, somebody molested you and you've never been healed from it? You've never dealt with that. And then you try to go on and have for meaningful, fulfilling relationships, and you can't understand why. You can't understand why you're promiscuous. You can't understand why people are taking advantage of you. You can't understand why she won't love me, or nobody will love me for me, or he won't love me. But the truth is, everything begins and ends with you. It's you. The common denominator is you. And what I mean by that is you're not responsible for your pain, but you are responsible for your healing. You've got to get healed before you can jump into any long-term relationship. Heal those limiting beliefs. Heal that trauma. And then, and only then, will you be ready to move forward in a relationship. All right, y'all. I'm Ken Canion, your host of Love, Lust, and Lies. And that's it for me today. And I am